I know there's times that I have, even in my own mind, been confused about what was the problem and what was the solution. How do we ensure that we frame the problem and that earlier you were talking about that context, make sure that the context is a high enough fidelity for ourselves and for the team so that that stays as our true north and we can test solution after solution. Some of them fail, some of them succeed. But how do we distinguish problem from solution in a way that keeps that clarity?
Sure. Well, in fact, that's such a common thing that there are many techniques out there today to help us with that, depending on, the particular kind of problem or solution you're working on. But at a most basic level, we try to get people to think of 3 questions. Number 1, what problem are you really trying to solve for your customer? Number 2, who's the customer, really? What kind of customer? And number 3, how will you know if you've succeeded? If you can answer even those 3 questions, it gives a lot of clarity to the problem, and then the teams can get to work on potential solutions. There are many more techniques you may have heard. There's one called jobs to be done. There's another called opportunity solution trees. These are all techniques to help frame and clarify this difference between the problem and the solution, or some people will frame it as the opportunity and the solution.
So I love these 3 questions. Just to make it practical, let's, for fun, let's role play this a little bit. Let's say I have a pet grooming company, and we know we want to grow, and we know we want more customers. We also know that during the pandemic, not many people are coming into the store. They don't feel safe to come in the store. There's local regulations that they can't come in. And we've got this idea of buying a van and going on the road and doing pet grooming out in the community. If I'm going to take these 3 questions, what problem are we trying to solve? Who is our customer? And how will we know? Where do I start? What does this conversation sound like?
Well, that's a perfect, classic example of this. So yeah, there is a real problem to solve there. So, and the pandemic has created a lot of these, by the way, for people. So that's why you might have noticed there's been a lot of opportunity, and some companies have really risen to take this on. But the problem to solve there is, you can't take your dog into the groomer anymore because maybe there's safety issues, like we said. Now, the second question is going to be a little more interesting there. Who exactly is this for? Is this for people that take their dog to the groomer today? Is this for people that never would take their dog to the groomer? So, for example, there is this cost element there. Maybe people do it themselves, and now you want to make a more cost-effective offering. You could start to see how solutions can go in lots of different areas. But let's say, you define this as people that were taking their dog into the groomer and now we're not. And then the third question there is, what's the success? Is it the same level of revenue you had before? Maybe the economics of having a van versus a office where you do this makes it so that you could actually succeed with half the customers. So the measure of success might be significantly different. But the point is that would frame our situation, and then we could get to work on potential solutions. Now, a van is one solution for sure, but maybe there are others. Maybe there are maybe you can team up with, just like Uber Eats. Maybe there are ways to team up and have your dog delivered to some without the person in there, and there's less safety risks. There's other approaches to that solution. And the point is you want to give as much latitude as possible to the teams.
Okay, so we're asking these 3 questions. What's the problem? Who is the customer? And then what does success look like? In our example of the pet groomer, I want you to say more about number 2, because it sounds like you're getting really specific there. Not just people that have pets and have money, but a lot more dialed in. Why is that so important?
Yeah, it's one of those hard-won lessons our industry has learned, because of course at one level you'd like this to apply to anybody, and it may, but that's may get lucky and it's going to extend beyond your target. But here's what's really going on. One of the surest ways to fail is to try to please everyone. It just really is. And one of the things you learn hard is that if you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. And you do a half-baked solution for everybody. And in fact, I see that all the time. Because most products fail not because there's no demand for, say, mobile grooming services. The reason they fail is because the solution is not good enough. People say, oh, it's just not worth it. I'll just continue to give my own dog a bath. And so the value is not high enough. So one of the principles that we've really learned is you need to focus in on exactly who that's for. And there are techniques to essentially, we're segmenting our customer base into different kinds of people. We say differences that make a difference. So it might be income level. It might even be dog breed level. It could be whatever you decide really makes sense. But focus in, nail it, do a solution that they absolutely love. And then from there, we can broaden the appeal in the successive iterations. As you improve your service, it becomes relevant to a broader and broader market.
There's a discipline that at Ramsey Solutions in the last few years we've really started to apply just ubiquitously across everything that we're doing here, and largely influenced by your work. And that is to, after we have the answer to who is the target customer, actually conduct customer interviews. Interview them about their problem. Don't make assumptions that they want the product or even the prototype, but actually become really intimately acquainted with who they are and what they want in terms of solving that problem. I think it's very, it wasn't common for us for a long time. And so I assume it's uncommon for a lot of small businesses to be having these conversations. Again, that founder often knows the customer psyche because they're in that marketplace with them. But what's the process of making sure that everyone on the team has that intimate relationship with that customer once you've got defined, this is who we're going to solve a problem for?
Yeah. And in fact, a lot of the times the problem is the founder knows too much.
Say more about that.
They think because they, let's say, maybe this groomer was a dog groomer, is a dog groomer, and so they feel like they know the business so much that they make so many assumptions about who the customer is. But again, so often they're wrong. I remember that was one of the very original product lessons I learned. I thought customers were more like me than they actually were. It's one of those things that if you know a lot about something, you're not even aware that you're assuming these things. But if you know nothing about something, you realize, you're going into it with a totally different mindset. It's like, I have to learn all of this. But either way, it's essential to get in front of actual users and customers. You will always learn so much. The famous get out of the building, or I love the quote from a guy named Steve Blank, which is, inside your company, there are what's the actual quote? No facts exist inside the company, only opinions. And the point is, you really have to get outside of the company, go outside of those walls, sit down with users and customers. And it's true. It's one of the most valuable things we can do. And generally, when we go in front of them, we're trying to make sure we understand who they really are. We want to make sure we understand the problems they really have. We also want to understand what it would take for them to switch to our product. And of course, we want to take advantage of being in front of them. We want to show them usually a prototype of whatever the new product or service is, so that we can see how well that addresses their needs. But this is the fundamental blocking and tackling of coming up with a new service.